can't feel my face. Coffee spilling all over the place. Forgot the sticks, we're turning around. Another weekend in some hockey town. With a pucked up parents, frozen toes, big hearts, bad luck. With a pucked up parents, one more tourney, one more puck. We're broke, we're loud, we love this grind. Cause our kid just scored and we lost our minds.
All right, welcome to Pucked Up Parents. We are at episode number 8. I am Michael. I'm your gracious host, and with me always is Angela. Angela, who are we?
Hi, everyone. We are the Pucked Up Parents. We have been Pucked Up Parents for the last 12 years. We are novice first generation hockey parents in a non traditional hockey town. And we started this podcast to talk about everything we've learned and experienced during that time, our trial by fire education and experience with all things youth hockey.
Yes, we are located in northern Kentucky. Again, Kentucky known for the Kentucky Derby, bourbon, not particularly hockey, but we kind of stumbled into hockey with both of our kids. We have a 12U and we have a 17-year-old player. And speaking of 17-year-old player, let's talk about our weekend. What did we have this weekend?
So we had senior night. I know it's a little early in the season to do senior night, but the way our home schedule worked out this year, we did senior night Saturday night. It was a lot of fun, but a little bit emotional. I think probably more emotional for our kiddo than for us.
Oh, don't lie. So if you follow us on social media, I did put a picture of Angela along with our son Sam and the look of love in both their eyes as they stared at each other, the mother and the son on the hockey journey. It was very touching and we got a lot of feedback on that. Actually got us a lot of followers based on how heartfelt that photo was. Our neighbor took that picture and it is incredible. It was a fun, emotional night. We went from the emotion, the tear jerking of the senior night presentation to the actual game itself. Any observations from the game?
Well, it was a big rivalry game too, so it was a little heated, and I think the fact that it was senior night made it even more so. It started out not so great for us. I think the boys were kind of on their heels, but we ended up coming back in the end. There's a little animosity between the two teams, but all in all, it was a pretty decent night.
Let's just say our son, who is never short of words or sarcasm, after our team scored a goal, I think our son had the assist. They all, led by our son, skated over to the opposing team's parents' bleacher section and celebrated banging on the glass in front of them, which drew a taunting penalty on our son. So he served 2 minutes in the box for antagonizing the other team's fans. It was a pretty heated moment in a heated game, but luckily we came out with the victory.
He also got sat on the bench for a little bit after that and some other words that were apparently coming out of his mouth. So, anyways,
Well, if you
not recommended to be taunting and to run your mouth, but it happens. And, you serve your penalty, you serve your bench time for that.
if anybody's listening knows Angela and I on a personal basis, everybody knows that the athleticism of our kids come from Angela, and the sarcasm and mouth that's going to get your ass kicked comes from me. So unfortunately, he has both. Luckily, he can back it up, but it happens. It's hockey. What are you going to do?
Right. Well, let's move on and do a short recap of our last episode, which was the episode where I challenged us to do an entire episode on tape. We talked about all sorts of tape, so much tape.
I agree. It was a lot of tape. I think as we continue to make a ton of episodes, in my opinion, that episode's going to stick out.
Ha ha.
Bad joke number.
Bad dad joke number one.
Oh, I did wanna get into one, real quick, and if you're done with recaps, I do wanna say something about the weekend. I don't know if you saw it, it's going viral, and I'm sure everybody's already probably seen this. Did you see the intermission of the AHL youth game the game between the Cleveland
No.
Monsters, which we've been to a Cleveland Monsters game, and I think it was called the Bears, so it was one of those minor league hockey teams, and at the intermission, they let the mites get out there and knock the puck around. It ended up in an all-out brawl between
What?
the mites. Yes, I'll show you the video
Wow.
when we're done recording here, but if you haven't looked it up, look it up, Youth Mite Hockey Brawl, and there's a big debate on social media right now as to whether the kids kinda set it up ahead of time. So it was 2 different
Oh.
but the danger of these like, kids were diving on each other, like, a goalie would come in 100 miles an hour and just take out another kid. The crowd was going crazy. They ate it up, but it's like, yeah, it was cool, but on the other hand, people are like, it's kinda dangerous." So, I know the
Yeah, doesn't sound very safe.
yeah, the youth organization put out a statement, they're investigating and everything, but it was wild. And I'm sure if you're a youth hockey parent, especially one closely affiliated with a minor league or major league hockey, a team, that you've done those intermission skates with the little guys, and this was what that was, but it just ended up being an all-out brawl, so I'll show you that video when we're done here.
Okay, we'll take a look at that. So today we are going to talk about equipment emergencies, parts, pieces, and repairs. Because we've talked several times about it's going to happen. Somebody's going to forget some equipment, whether it's for a practice or for a game. Equipment gets left behind. There's so many different pieces and parts, and you either forget it or something gets broken. So let's talk first about the forgotten equipment.
The forgotten equipment. Alright, what do you think, in your opinion, is the most forgotten equipment piece?
I think it happens every year, a jersey gets left behind for a game. I think that's probably the most common, but I think there's, several others. We've had actually, even with our high school kids this year, we've had 2 helmets left behind, forgotten helmets. So I think that's gonna be up there as well as sticks. I think leaving a stick in the locker room after practice or leaving a stick in a locker room after a game happens pretty often too.
Yeah, and I saw your taped notes we had made. There's various reasons why you leave stuff behind. I know me personally, I've left stuff behind because I'm trying to teach the kids, be responsible, put all your stuff in the car. Dad's loading the car up for other reasons. Put all your stuff in the car, and then ultimately we leave something behind. But there's also other reasons. You may be washing gear, you may be drying the gear, which separates it out of the bag. It gets lost. So I know Henry, our 12U last season, we went to Pittsburgh, and I think I may have shared this story already, but we went to Pittsburgh, and we are 5 miles from the rink. And I go, "You did put your jerseys in the car, right?" And he said nothing. It just went into total tears. Was beside himself. Henry is very hard on himself when he does something negative. And we wound up using the other goalie, the goalie who was on the bench. We carry two goalies. He used their jersey during the game. So it kind of saved itself. I told the coach, I was like, don't get on him too much. He's beat himself up. And pretty much the coach just said, "Hey, look, Henry, if you score 3 or 4 goals this game, you're gonna have to wear the goalie jersey the rest of the season." So, luckily, that didn't happen. Would have been awesome if it did, but that's an instance where we left a jersey behind the 2 states away, essentially.
Well, I think the, borrowing a goalie jersey is pretty common practice in that situation. I think another thing that we've seen over the years and done is wearing a practice jersey. So if you're wearing your black jersey that day, if somebody has a black practice jersey, throw that on, and as we talked last week, tape the numbers on the back. We've done that before. I do remember one time, our oldest forgot his jersey, and there were twins on the team. So obviously the twins had the same last name. Well, they had an older sibling who also played hockey, and our son actually ended up borrowing the older sibling's jersey. So there were 3 kids on the ice that had the same last name on their jersey.
No, the triplets, they were the triplets
Yeah,
out
so they were the triplets.
like the
Funny
Appledorns,
story
if you're
though.
watching Shoresy, the Appledorns.
Okay, well, funny story. The twins that were on the team and our son actually do share a birthday, so they
Oh,
have
so it
called
all worked
themselves
out.
triplets over the years. Yeah.
Yeah, and what's funny, I actually saw a post. I follow a hockey goalie parent page on Facebook, and there was a goalie parent who was driven to they were in Buffalo, New York, drove to Buffalo, New York. I'm not sure where, and they were in a panic because they left the goalie stick back at home, and they said, "Are there any goalie parents in Buffalo that would loan us a stick for the day?" And there was actually a parent that stepped up and was like, "Hey, I know where your rink is. I know where you're playing. We just need it back by 4 o'clock." And they loaned out a stick. So yes, parents unite and helped each other out on that instance.
Yeah, and I think that happens a lot with us missing equipment or borrowing equipment. We've done that before with, in fact, I think it was last week when one of the high school kids didn't have his helmet. Our youngest happened to have just finished stick time, and we went to the car and grabbed his helmet, expanded it out, and handed it off to the other kid. There's also, most rinks have loaner equipment in some locked storage room somewhere. So we've done that before too. Find somebody at the rink and say, hey, Do you have a helmet? Do you have elbow pads? Do you have something that a kid can borrow for a game so that they can play the game when it's that one piece of equipment that may have gotten left behind somewhere?
You remember in Just Friends, Ryan Reynolds, he was like an amazing hockey player. It's actually opened the whole movie. He was an amazing hockey player, and he goes to play pond hockey when he's back in Jersey. He has none of his equipment, and he has to use rentals, and he's just awful. That's what I always think about. These poor kids out there
Yeah.
with these bootleg jerseys with the hockey tape number, and if you see it on the opposing team, elbow and going, "Look, kid must have forgot his jersey."
Right. It happens to everybody. I think it depends on the situation. Much of what we've talked about here is game situations, but it happens for practice too, where somebody leaves something behind. I know that we've left a stick behind and had to borrow a stick during practice, things along those lines as well.
And help me remember, because as I thought back, I think that we actually had a coach at one time. If the kids left something that didn't come with a sock or a stick or something like that, they got in trouble by the coach. I think they were
Oh,
skating
yeah.
or yeah, the
Yeah.
coach was like, "You need to be responsible. It's not on your parents. You forgot" socks was a big one. "You forgot your socks. You're gonna skate some laps." So,
Right. Right.
responsibility.
Yeah, and trying to teach the kids the responsibility, but at the same time trying to help them out and teach them tips and tricks on how to not forget equipment. I know one trick that I use often is I lay everything out in the garage, kind of in the order from bottom to top. So I get skates out, get the shin pads out, get the socks out, get the cup out, just kind of go through the entire equipment list, laying it out on the garage floor before I throw it in the bag.
Yeah, and I've seen where you've laid equipment out in our garage, between the wall, the deep freeze, and your truck to where you can't walk past to get out of the garage unless you walk over the equipment, so it's just kind of it's there, you have to step over it, means you gotta take it with you, so we do remember to take it.
I think that's another tactic to make sure that it's in the car. I will say one time we had like a Saturday night game and then we turned around and had another game on Sunday morning and we came home. Somehow the bag got out of my car, but the stick stayed in and I was driving an SUV at the time and I could see the stick in my rearview mirror. So I assumed the bag was in the car. Yeah, the bag wasn't in the car. That's when we did the meet halfway.
Oh, yeah.
I had to turn around and come back, and you met me.
We live in Northern Kentucky, just outside Cincinnati. I drove halfway to Indianapolis, which is just cornfields, and met her at, like, some random gas station, and was like, Here you go," and then drove home. I mean, it was like a wasted 2-hour trip for me, but, everybody on the video feed for the game was impressed at how quickly you got home to pick up everything. I had to blow your spot up and say, "Nope, I met her
Yeah.
halfway because 'cause I'm an amazing
Right, right.
and I'm awesome." And I will say this too, if and I know everybody probably has it, the team chat. You always see the team chat after the practices or after the games. "Hey, listen, we opened Henry's bag up and we have 3 socks. So who's missing a sock?" Or on the flip side, "Hey, listen, Johnny came home. He has 1 glove. Does anybody have the glove?" Because I think for the most part, a team manager or a coach will stay behind and make sure that locker room is clear after everybody leaves to make sure no equipment's left behind.
Yeah, whoever's last out of the locker room does a quick scan to see if anything's left behind. I think that happens pretty regularly, and speaking of the team chat, that's gonna be a whole 'nother episode. We'll have to do a full episode on team chats.
Oh, yeah, I'm very anti-team chat. I'm sorry if any listeners are people on our, hockey teams, our kids' hockey teams. I mute that stuff, man. I love
Yeah,
you.
you mute it, so I have to pay attention to it. So one
Why
of us
punish
has
both
to
of
know
us?
what's
Why
going
should we both
on.
be punished? Just
Okay, but why should I be punished and why should you be the one that gets to not pay attention to it?
all right, we'll alternate months or something. So, what else you got?
So this has come up a few times for us with the kids growing and realizing that they've outgrown their equipment. And this happens especially as they get older and they're getting their equipment on themselves in the locker room. You're not helping them with it. You're not really paying that much attention to it. So just recently, I think we may have said this earlier, but I've got a couple of other examples of this situation. So our oldest is about 6'4". So he comes in the other day and he's like, "Yeah, my shoulder pad's messed up. Can you help me fix it?" And so I grab it and I'm looking at it and I've stitched this thing back together before. One of the pads keeps coming loose because he has a nervous tick where he kind of moves his shoulder pads around a lot. And so I get a hold of these shoulder pads that I haven't really looked at probably in 6, 8 months, maybe a year. And I look at the size on them and I realize that they're a senior small. and the recommended height on them is 5'3" to 5'9".
He's a foot off.
So, needless to say, the shoulder pads are a little small. So, check the equipment sizes. We've done a pretty good job of checking those. Usually over the summer when we go to a summer tournament and we can travel and maybe find something that is last year's model that's now on clearance. Another funny story of too small equipment. One of the high school players was wearing some hockey pants that seemed just really, really short. So we started calling them hot pants.
Oh, he's out
So
there like
they
he's rocking the capri pants like he's Mike McDaniels of the Miami Dolphins. He's like,
No, not
short
the hockey the shorts, they were more like Daisy Dukes, they were super short.
showing some
So,
ass cheek.
yeah, so the kids all I don't know, there were a couple of the boys we were driving from one game to another, and the boys were putting their equipment in the bed of my pickup because it has a cover on it, and they wanted it to dry out a little bit. So when we got to the hotel that night, I was, kinda separating everything out, gathering everything up to go into the hotel, and I pick up this pair of hockey pants. I'm like, "Whose are these? These are tiny," knowing that I've got a group of, 16, 17-year-old boys with me. I'm like, "Whose hockey pants are these?" I look at the size, they're junior larges, which is, the size for like a 12-year-old.
Well, it leads me to the next subject. These kids get attached to their equipment. I mean, they're super s
Yes.
they get attached to their equipment. So not only are you checking for the size of it, you're also checking for the damage. I know we were at a tournament once for, a summer tournament, I said that wrong, and we noticed Sam had holes in his gloves. His we noticed his thumb was sticking out during games, and we, pulled him out the ice after it was over and said, "We need to go get you some gloves." He argued with us. And I remember going to the store and the clerk that was working there, I go, "Look at this glove and tell him he needs it replaced." And the dude's like, "Yeah, man, this looks pretty bad. It's like Swiss cheese." And we actually have pictures from that tournament where you can see his thumb hanging out of the glove holding the stick. If a puck were to hit that or anything like that, he'd break a thumb. It also looks trashy in my opinion. Like,
Yes, but they get attached to certain things, and especially once the equipment gets worn in, and I think that's where we are now, especially with our oldest, because hopefully he's not growing too much more, but the, idea of I've had this for a long time, these gloves are broken in or these elbow pads are really broken and I'm really comfortable with them. Getting them to change is a little bit difficult sometimes and we've had to fight that battle, but it's important for their protection. That equipment's there for a reason.
yeah, I always think of the superstition, just like Michael Jordan. It's known that Michael Jordan always wore his UNC shorts under his Bulls jersey. That these kids get attached to this equipment and it's like, "Oh, those are my lucky pants, those are my lucky socks." I'll say this on the flip side, for all you parents that are just starting out in mites and squirts, Angela and I have always noticed, the kids with the sticks that are way too small. The parents aren't buying them new sticks, and you see the kid out there and they're hunched over to chase after the puck, and it looks very uncomfortable. And you notice, Angela, what is the recommended size for a stick? It should come up if you're standing on skates. Is it up to your nose? The tip comes to
I
your
think
nose.
it's somewhere, yeah, somewhere between your chin and your nose. And typically, defensemen have a little bit longer stick than your forwards. So that's been the recommended, at least that's been recommended to us. And that's typically where we have had our kids set up their sticks. Recently, our youngest needed to get a new stick, and we got it while we were at a tournament. We went to the local hockey store, picked it up, and we were running a little bit late for the game. So as we were coming in, the coach was like, "Did you get it cut to size?" And I put it next to his old stick and I'm like, "I don't think we need to cut it to size. It's literally like 2 inches longer than his old stick." And knowing that he's going to grow and he's a defenseman, we were like, "Yeah, we're not cutting that. Just leave it alone. Let's tape it up and let's go."
Right, but it's notorious. I know it's notorious for those super younger ages. The parents, you're probably using a loaner stick or a hand-me-down stick, but the kid is out there hunched over, and to me, it inhibits their learning if they don't have a proper size stick.
Well, it can go the other way too. It can be way too long. I mean, we did that. We sent our kid out with a stick that hadn't been cut down to size and it was way too long and that was awkward too. So, coaches and other people around the rink do a really good job of helping you out and letting you know what's going on with that. I think that once you're standing on skates, somewhere between your chin and your nose is typical for the stick length.
Right, right. All right. And what do we have next? Are we
Well,
there yet? Do you
I
wanna
was
hit on are you there yet?
Yeah, so I let's since we're talking about sticks, the most frequently broken item would probably be a stick.
I gotta ask
We
you, I've it's happened to me once on a tournament where the kid is broke in half, and we had to do an emergency purchase. How many times you
Emergency purchase?
like a
Like how
broken stick?
how many times have the kids broken sticks?
Broken a stick at a tournament while you're away where you had to panicky buy a stick.
I've probably only had to panicky buy 1 or 2
Okay, okay.
because we usually have a backup stick.
We do now.
Right, but that was when our youngest was a little bit younger, and I think he was kind of between sizes and was probably in need of a new stick anyways. But now we're at a point where we typically have a backup stick, so we're not stuck in that situation.
Well, in the first it's funny because when you watch a game and that's you see that stick break on the ice, it's all parents are like, "All right, whose team was that? Oh, it was our team. Okay, which parent?" And then it's like, "Oh, man, it's Michael. Oh, you get to buy a new stick." It's everybody dogs each other and they're gathering, and then, of course, the kids, that thing is that's something to brag about, man. That's a trophy. Our kids have broken sticks in their room displayed proudly. I think Sam autographed one and hung it up on the
Yeah. It's crazy, but and I will say too, most of the sticks, if you're buying a new stick, they have a 30-day warranty. So then after that stick breaks, the question is, how old is that stick? Did you buy it within 30 days? Because if it breaks within 30 days, then it's under warranty. However, it's highly unusual, I think, for them to actually break within 30 days.
So
It's it's probably always like just beyond 30 days.
not only is replacing a stick because it's broken in 2 or nearly broken in 2, but also it goes dead, and if you have a crack in the blade or even in the shaft, it's a dead stick, and you can kinda, like, tap it on the concrete or tap it on the ice, and you could tell it's not solid, and that's indication that it's time for a new stick.
Yeah,
No amount of tape is gonna cover that up.
right, it has a different sound to it, and I think baseball bats are the same, baseball, softball bats have a similar kind of look and feel when they're dead, as well as I think golf clubs are probably the same, so that's, just another thing to kind of be on the lookout for and think about. We've had a few of those over the years as well. So beyond sticks, I think laces are the next thing. Your skate laces. We always have an extra pair of skate laces because those suckers get, worn down and you go to tie your skate before a game or before practice and it snaps.
Yep, it yoinks away. You always keep a steady supply of skate laces, and I know we've repaired these plenty of times too. The helmet. And the helmet
The
has
helmets.
screws and buttons
Yes.
and, chin straps and the cage, and so I know we bought a kit. What's explain to me the kit we have.
So we've had a little kit. It comes with a little screwdriver, a little Phillips head screwdriver, a bunch of the little tiny screws that go into the helmets, as well as all of the little buttons and clips and other things that go on a hockey helmet. There's a clip to hold the cage on. There's a clip that holds the chin strap on. There's all sorts of different parts and pieces there. So we've kept a little helmet repair kit in our kids' bags, and it's come in super handy.
And
We've
those
had
are
to
that's
replace
a hel
some of those
it's a
screws.
helmet specific kit. You buy that from a hockey store, right? It's got all the little parts specifically made for a Bauer helmet or whatever. It's the actual clips. This isn't just like from a hardware store. You're just buying random screws.
Right, and you can buy I have had to go in and because 'cause I've run out of screws, go into a hockey store and be like, "Hey, I need, a couple of extra helmet screws or a clip or whatever." They'll sell you the individual pieces as well, but we found that the little kit is pretty handy.
All right, and what else you got that breaks emergency? I think some of the clothing, we the Velcro and the elastic.
Yeah, so the elbow pads, the elastic's worn out, the Velcro, wears out on different things. I know that the neck guard Velcro, I had to repair some Velcro on a neck guard last year. We've had a couple of pairs of cracked shin pads that we've had to replace. Torn pants. The pants get a tear or a hole in them, particularly at the seams or whatever. I've stitched those up a handful of times just because even though it's got a hole in it, I mean, they're still good. The protection part of it is fine, but there's a hole in the seam of the leg or whatever, and we've stitched those up. Holes in socks. Socks are the world's worst to get
Yeah.
holes in.
Yeah, they go quickly, especially at a younger age when they're falling down a lot. And if they buy that thinner material for your jerseys, your kids are on their knees a lot. They're falling leg down first. So a lot of holes that inevitably, when kids were mites and squirts, the first 2 or 3 practices, we already had holes in those socks. It was awful. And then if the Velcro quits on you, like on the socks, that's where that tape comes in handy. You pull out the old sock
Exactly.
tape and give it a little tape job there to hold them things up. And then also the elastic, like the elastic giveaway, I call those in the underwear world quitters. So when my boxer briefs, the elastic goes out, I call those quitters because they start to sag and look like bacon strips around the elastic. It's time to throw those bad boys away and give them a Viking funeral.
And that definitely happens with all the elastic and the Velcro on all the different equipment, whether it's the elbow pads or the shin pads, all of those have elastic and Velcro.
So before we get, I know the next topic we wanted to talk about were skate blades, but I want to kind of skip ahead on you because I don't want to run out of time on this episode. I want to talk about goalie equipment repairs. Now we had a goalie parent on here a few episodes back. Shauna, thank you again for sitting in with us. We'll certainly invite you back again. But goalie equipment is a different monster, and you, who are best friends with Shauna and Leslie, you're kind of the tag team, the triple threat, HBI. You guys have done a lot of goalie equipment repair. Take us through what goalies go through when their equipment breaks, because that's a bigger deal, in my opinion.
Well, it is because there's so many more parts and pieces, and we'll have to have Shauna back on, maybe another goalie parent to talk about all of these different parts and pieces in their, specifics. Because I only know enough to know that there's a lot of different pieces. So there's the helmet themselves, and we just talked about a player helmet having different buckles and clips and straps and screws and pads. Well, the goalie helmet has all of those as well, but many more. The way they're put together, there's, straps on the back, there's, padding in the front. There's
I
all
got
sorts
the
of different
classic thing that hangs down from the chin, like, yeah.
Right. So you've got the little thing that hangs down from the chin that's, usually tied on with some sort of rope or whatever. So there's just a million different parts and pieces just to the helmet alone. And then you start looking at the leg pads. There's all the different buckles and straps. There's the toe strap that ties the pad on the skate. There's the leg strap, the straps that hold them on to their legs. There's all sorts of different buckles and clips and straps and all kinds of things. And Shauna, that we had on a few weeks ago, she carries a bag with her to all the games, keeps it in her car with all of these different parts and pieces to make emergency repairs on a regular basis.
Yeah, Sean is like one of those tow truck drivers you see on the side of the highway, with a semi. It's like the tool truck with all the tools in it. Shauna carries the equivalent of that with her to every tournament. Now, I know the famous story. I'd like to hear it from you and share it with our listeners. I think there was a problem with a glove during a tournament.
Yeah,
I think I didn't make
there
the tournament, but I remember hearing about it.
Right. You were not at this tournament. Shauna's son was in net. We were in the middle of a tournament. It was a game later in the evening. I can't remember if it was a Friday night or Saturday night, but it was later in the evening. And there's a shot on goal. He throws his glove up, and all of a sudden the ref is pointing to the other team scored a goal. And he kind of looks at his glove like, what? That's weird. He kind of messes around with it a little bit, didn't realize what was going on. Happens again. And then he realizes that his goalie glove has come undone, for back lack of a better term.
So
It's
the stitching's
the
coming.
stitching of the kinda net that catches the puck has come loose, and there's essentially a hole in his glove. So, he skates off the ice, the other goalie goes in, and panic ensues on, the mom part because, like, what are we gonna do? We don't know what's going on here. So, suddenly, we have a all hands on deck parent meeting almost in the stands, figuring out what we're gonna do. There was a player, I think, that was maybe not playing or something. I don't know. We had one group of parents go to a sporting goods store and buy stuff to try to fix it. We're watching YouTube videos. We were doing
Picturing,
all kinds.
do you remember Apollo 13 where they poured the box of stuff out on the table and they're like, "Here's what they have to fix I think it was the air filters, like duct tape and, chicken
Right.
wire." So you guys were doing the same. You had a powwow, you brainstorm fixing stuff, you're probably Yelping or mapping the closest hardware store.
Yes. We and it was late at night, so it was like, "Okay, somebody has to go to the sporting goods store now." So, like, one couple went to the sporting goods store, we're watching YouTube videos, we do all kinds of things. So, at the end of the night, then there are a couple of us, Shauna and I were probably the main ones who were sitting in the hotel lobby over a drink, with it was actually a kind of a needle thing that you use to stitch a leather baseball glove back together is what we used with some lacrosse string. We managed to do it. It was not pretty. It was quite stressful, but we got it done. So, shout out to all the parents who came together. We had a big group that night that all pitched in on that adventure.
You're gonna find the parents are gonna throw in together, and it almost becomes like a pit crew of a NASCAR race where this equipment gets presented much like a car does at a pit stop, and parents just gather around it and troubleshoot how to fix whatever it needs, be it a goalie pad. I'm picturing again, I'm an '80s kid, 3 amigos, so like the wind. So, somebody standing over you guys in the hotel, so like the wind, get the glove fixed. I'll point out one more chase story that I'm familiar with, and this is not particularly hockey equipment, but it is emergency equipment you should carry with you if your kid has this. Contact lenses.
Yes.
If your child wears contact lenses, carry spares. I know Chase, I've seen the panic. I've seen it happen before where he's been in net and he's lost a contact lens. And what's the most important thing a goalie has? It's their vision. So carry some spare contact lenses with you if your kid wears contact lenses.
And maybe even glasses too, if you've got a kiddo that wears glasses, some sort of backup in case something breaks, for sure. But yeah, that contact lenses is another great tip to remember.
And I'll tell you the wildest equipment failure that I've seen it in the NHL, I've seen it in minor league hockey, I've seen it in varsity, more in varsity hockey, not necessarily youth, but when the skate blade breaks or comes out and the player goes down, it's almost like a shotgun blast the way they fall. You think they broke their leg, and then they're like, the way they take them off the ice even looks like they have a broken leg, and they're like, "Oh, they just threw a blade." So it's nearly impossible. You can't skate off on 1 foot, so they have to get assistance to get off. So I know that's an emergency repair. When
Yes.
repair.
It is, and so what's so wild is if the blade breaks or it comes out of the skate while the player's on the ice, they're a sitting duck. They can't really move, so they're crawling or somebody's helping push them to the back to the bench. And you can actually change out just the blade of the skates. And I didn't know this coming into being a hockey parent. And we never carried spare blades until our oldest was probably in high school. And one of the reasons a coach encouraged us to carry spare blades is because many of the cities that we're playing in now, because of our geographic area, they don't have hockey stores. So if somebody breaks a blade during a game, it's not like you can run down to the local True Hockey store or whatever to pick up blades. That's something you gotta order. The area that we live in, it's not like you can go to the Dick's
Get
Sporting Goods
Grubhub or Uber
store.
Eats a hockey blade. It
Right, right,
and
but it happens.
And we talked about this way back in episode 1. Remember episode 1? We talked about this, about sharpening the blades. Now, there are times when your kids get their blades sharpened and they get out there and you see them kind of fumbling around and messing up, and it's because they had a bad sharpen job. And I've seen that where we've done emergencies of taking the kid off the ice, running to the shop to get it re-sharpened to fix whatever the poor sharpening job was done.
That's another again, because we're in a non-traditional hockey town, you can't just get your skates sharpened anywhere, and our coach actually now carries one of those Sparks machines with them to all the games in case we have that situation happen, and we've had it happen a couple of times where kids had to take a skate off mid-game and get it resharpened because of some sort of an issue.
When we talk about all these repairs, we talk about all this stuff we've done and the parts we need. Angela, who's your best friend on the internet when it comes to learning how to fix this stuff?
My best friend on the internet.
YouTube.
YouTube? Yeah, 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 yeah.
YouTube will teach you how to do anything.
I
So, when you go into those emergency repairs and you don't know what you're doing and there's not any, I mean, granted, parents are a great resource around the rink. YouTube is your friend.
Well, that's how we learned how to stitch a goalie glove that night, was YouTube videos.
Great. If I ever bust my head open or needs emergency stitches if we're out in the wild, are you going to stitch me up like a goalie glove?
Yeah, with the same equipment that I had.
Great, great. A
Um,
nice
yeah.
rusty big needle.
Yeah, but I think I wanna say the tip of the week is to expect this kinda stuff to happen. Expect that there's gonna be missing equipment, broken equipment. It's gonna happen. But what I wanna say is when it does, stay calm and start problem solving. There's no reason to panic. The other parents are gonna be there ready and willing to help.
Yeah, I agree. The parents all throw in and start to help. Hockey is unlike any sport, aside from many, many different reasons, but one of those is the multitude of hockey equipment. And if one of those pieces fail, and they ultimately will, you're in an emergency repairs situation. And the same thing about leaving stuff behind. You're not a youth hockey parent, as far as I'm concerned, until you leave a stick 3 states away. So it's going to happen. Be patient with your child. Explain to the coach what's going on, and of course, the circle of parents will help you out and help you get through everything. So Angela's tip of the week is great.
And it's not just the parents, it's the coaches and the rink staff and parents from the other team. We've even gone to parents of another team. Hey, anybody got an extra helmet? Whatever, and people are super helpful. So stay calm and start problem
Yeah,
solving.
because what do they inevitably say? "Yo, I've been there. That happened
Right.
to us. We understand. Here's the equipment." Let's wrap this show up. This has been a great topic. I think we can probably hit this once again. Most of these topics we can do twice. So take us to our outro.
Yeah, follow, share, subscribe. Tell us your stories. What's your craziest equipment failure or missing equipment story? Let us know. We'll talk about it in another episode. Leave your questions, comments on whatever platform you're listening on. Find us on Facebook and Instagram. And remember, you're not the only one lost and confused at the rink.
Well said. We do have merchandise. Get out there, purchase you out some Pucked Up Parents merchandise. Get you some coffee mugs or some hoodies. And Angela, I say it every week, keep your stick on the
Oh,
ice. We are all in this together, especially with broken equipment. Thank you, everyone.
Up before dawn, can't feel my face. Coffee spilling all over the place. Forgot the sticks, we're turning around. Another weekend in some hockey.